Visible puts the ultimate wireless hack in the palm of your hand. With unlimited 5G wireless data and hotspot designed to keep you connected, powered by Verizon's 5G network. And no contract holding you back. Plans start at $25 a month, or get the premium Visible Plus Pro plan and save $10 on your first month when you use promo code HACK. Make the switch at Visible.com. Terms apply. See Visible.com for details.
Mornings have a rhythm. You can hear it, feel it. And at Quaker, we fuel it. With 100% whole grain oats and a good source of fiber in every bowl, helping you turn that rhythm into your soundtrack for a great day. Fuel to start whatever's next. Quaker, official sponsor of FIFA World Cup 26.
Hello, and happy summer, folks. It is me, Kevin O'Shea, host of the Supernatural Japan podcast. I'm currently on vacation right now, traveling around Japan, touring Japan, doing all kinds of stuff, making a lot of cool content for you guys. And what I've done, since it's the summer holiday, this will be coming out on July the 12th, I've kind of repackaged some very old school Supernatural Japan interviews, episodes, content for you guys. So what you're going to hear today, whenever you're listening to this, is an incredible interview with my good friend, Kevin Tarpey, who is a Bostonian who is based in rural Japan. And in this episode, he talks about his incredible 88 Temples pilgrimage in Shikoku, the famed 88 Temples pilgrimage. So this was back in 2022. He completed this incredible journey, and we talked about it. I had broken it up into two episodes. I think it was episodes 7 and 8 of Supernatural Japan. And what I've done for you guys now is I've just combined the two episodes, and you will hear at the end of it that he had not yet completed the 88 Temples pilgrimage, but he. And I said I was going to get him back on, but I never did. But he did later on complete the entire journey, and since has had some other incredible walking adventures. So sit back and listen to this vintage episode from 2022, May 2022, actually it's two episodes combined, episodes 7 and 8, the interview portions. Enjoy this great look into an incredible adventure that I would like to do one day. I would at least like to walk part of the 88 temples. It sounds like an incredible thing. And I think after listening to Kevin's story, you'll want to do it too. What is the supernatural? It's far more than hauntings or spooky places. The supernatural is something that is above and beyond being natural. It is something that cannot be explained by natural laws. There are many phenomena and experiences that can be deemed as supernatural. Tonight, we will talk about one of Japan's most famous pilgrimages. Is it supernatural? To some it is. Supernatural Japan, Episode 7, The 88 Temples Pilgrimage, Part 1. Well, folks, welcome to another episode of the Supernatural Japan podcast. My name is Kevin O'Shea, and I'm the host of this podcast all about interesting things in Japan, the weirder side of Japan, the supernatural side of Japan. And this week, I'm very happy to be joined by a pilgrim. That's right. Someone who is walking the 88 temples of Shikoku Island, and also happens to be a good friend of mine, Kevin Tarpey. So Kevin will introduce himself during the podcast, and I just want you to know from the very beginning that this will be a 2-part episode. Our interview was long and awesome, but for the sake of the length of this podcast and what I'm trying to do, I don't want it to be too long. So this week we'll start off with part 1, and next week we'll finish his tales and stories and fun recollections of the beginning of the journey. So, Kevin is a friend of mine who lives in Japan. He is American. I have known him for about 20 years. And he is someone who loves exploring, walking, and looking at the deeper side of life. And he is a pilgrim who is currently walking the 88 temples pilgrimage, which is a very famous walk in Japan, one of the most famous walks in Japan. And before the Golden Week holiday, he walked almost half of it, and then he took the Golden Week holiday off. And then now, as you listen to this episode, he is back walking again to complete it, and he shares with us his experiences, which are fantastic. And next week you will be able to find or listen to the rest of his experiences in part 2. But I want to say thank you so much to all of the new and returning amazing listeners to the Supernatural Japan podcast. This podcast is doing better than I had ever dreamed at such an early stage in its existence. This podcast is, of course, available on all the places you find podcasts, like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon Music, you name it, we're out there. And I want to thank all of the new and awesome people who come over to the Supernatural Japan Facebook page and our Instagram feed over at instagram.com/supernaturaljapan. All right, so this week, again, we're going to be having this fantastic interview with Kevin. And another thing that I want to share that you may have already noticed as you listen to this podcast, and you definitely will notice as you listen to the interview portion of the podcast, is that I now have access to a bit of a more professional setup for recording this podcast. I do have a great Rode microphone, but now I no longer have to record at home. I have access to a recording studio at my place of work, which I can use from time to time. So a lot of the episodes should hopefully sound a lot better. All right. So before we jump into this episode, one thing I am going to encourage you all to do, and Kevin himself will talk about this in episode 2 or part 2, but I really want you to go over to Kevin's Instagram and follow him because he is really doing a fantastic job of documenting this journey. And he talks about his Instagram in part 2, which will be coming out next week. He takes a lot of fantastic photos and writes incredible journal entries about this experience that you will soon hear about. And you can find him over at Instagram at The Green Hoof. The Green Hoof, HOOF, as in the hoof on an animal. So if you go over to Instagram.com/thegreenhoof, you can find Kevin, and I will talk about that again at the end of this part of the podcast. So let's listen to my interview with Kevin talking about his experiences walking the 88 Temples pilgrimage. Okay, so folks, here we are. It is another episode of the Supernatural Japan podcast. And in this episode, or potentially over the next few episodes, I'm going to be chatting with a good friend of mine, Kevin Tarpey, who is coming to us from Japan. Hey there, Kevin.
Hello. Good morning. Is it? Awesome. Yeah, it's morning.
It is morning. Yes, absolutely. Okay. And Kevin is joining me now. Kevin was on a former podcast of mine a couple of times. I think the Just Japan
at least
podcast.
Twice. Yeah.
Yeah. A long time ago. And he is back to grace us with his tales of adventure and coolness because you're doing some pretty neat stuff right now. And there is such a neat connection to what you're doing and the supernatural, or just the you know, because you're visiting some neat places, doing some neat things. So you are doing something called, in English, they call it the 88 Shrines Pilgrimage. I've heard that term before. But before we jump into that, talking about that,
88 temples.
88 temples. Oh gosh, yeah, not shrines. So there we go. Thank you for correcting me.
Shrines would
be Shinto.
So, no, it's okay.
And temples would be Buddhist.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? Often in English, we use the words interchangeably, maybe because of a Christian bias.
I should know better. My wife would probably whack me in the head if I make that mistake. You know, shrines equals red Tory gates. You know, and
yeah, although you do see some of those at Buddhist temples because they'll often share space, right?
Oh, okay, cool. Interesting.
Yeah.
You know more about this than I. You visited more and more recently. But before we get into the visiting of temples, and I got to correct myself there, Kevin, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself? Doesn't have to be too much, just and where you are, and yeah.
Yeah. So, like you said, my name's Kevin. I currently live in the city of Unnan in the prefecture of Shimane. And when I say city, it's pretty rural. Okay. Unnan is one of these newly created cities in the last 20 years in Japan where smaller rural towns realized if they kind of teamed up their resources, taxes, whatnot, they'd basically be better off. So Unnan as a city is quite new. Where I live is, in general, the Sanin region, Shimane, neighboring Tottori. I think Tottori has the smallest population out of all the prefectures, and we're second smallest.
Wow.
And even then, most of the people tend to live in the cities of Matsue or Yonago for Tottori. So there's a lot of forest, a lot of mountains. It's quite a nice place to live if you're into that kind of thing, which I am.
You are into that kind of thing. So I was just going to say, how come you're not living in Shibuya in downtown Tokyo, good sir? What's up with that?
Well,
I mean, doesn't everyone want to live in Tokyo when they come to Japan?
Well, mine, we have to back up 6 years to an event you attended as well. 6 years ago, our good friend Ken was getting married. Ken lived in Shimane. He was getting married at the very famous Shinto shrine of Izumo Taisha.
Yeah, that's right.
And I was living in America at the time, and I came for the wedding. And during the ceremony at Izumo Taisha, he told me about En-musubi. En-musubi is a concept about relationships, connections between people. Izumo Taisha is renowned for, if you pray to the kami there, you increase your chances of getting in a relationship. I've recently found out this is kind of a new thing. It's, if you went back 500 years ago in a time machine, Japanese people would not know what you were talking about. It's kind of maybe the 1800s, if I remember from what I read. It's kind of it was a way for probably the shrine to increase money and people visiting. But anyway, so Ken's telling me this whole during the ceremony and after, and I'm just like, oh, okay, yeah, and Musubi, sure. I'm sure if I pray to the kami. Well, lo and behold, about a week later, I was at a bar, and a Japanese woman entered that bar. We started talking. We really hit it off. Update to last November, we were married. It kind of changed my whole life course. I ended up moving here. So the short version is I met someone in this prefecture and decided to move here.
Yeah.
But I grew up in inner city Boston. I couldn't see myself living in a big city or any kind of city of a certain size. Even though I'd have access to the mountains, probably in so many cities in the world, access to nature, I literally can walk out of my door and be at a hiking trail within a 30-minute walk.
Yeah. No, I definitely, I have a lot of envy because of course I follow you on all your social media, your Facebook and your Instagram. And for those out there listening, Kevin and I actually met each other about 20 years ago. Yeah. About 20 years ago, we were both teachers in South Korea. And that's when we first met each other. And I can tell you that I know that you were always an outdoorsy person. I feel the same. I mean, that's why I have often, my big thing is environmental education, but because of my profession and the need to earn money to have a family, I as an international school teacher, the international schools aren't normally out in the countryside. Sadly, I wish there was an Inaka international school.
Well, that's the thing. It's great for nature, but in terms of income, unless you're doing some kind of remote work, it is difficult. Or starting your own business. If there's less people, like I just said, right? Shimane Tottori, there's the least amount of people. There's going to be less jobs. It's just simple. So it's tough.
And there you are. You're in this location now, and you're in the midst of quite an adventure. And I'm not in any way being sarcastic when I say that, because I am really, I'm following you on your Instagram and on your Facebook. I'm just loving every day your updates and your pictures. So can you tell the Supernatural Japan podcast listeners a little bit about what is it you're doing?
I am currently walking what's referred to in English as the Shikoku 88 Temple pilgrimage. It's a Buddhist pilgrimage. In Japanese, it's called Henro Michi, which simply means the pilgrim's way or the pilgrim's path. Japan has countless small and big pilgrimages. Since the Edo period, Japanese people have loved to go on pilgrimage, either to places like Izumo Taisha, the Shinto shrine we were just talking about, or something like the Shikoku 88 temple pilgrimage. I think the fact that this particular one is referred to as Henro Michi, the pilgrim's way, kind of shows you in the national consciousness, this is the pilgrimage. It's the most renowned. And basically what it is either by car, by bike, by tour bus, by walking, people try to visit what's been determined as 88 significant temples on the island of Shikoku. The pilgrimage is very tied to a monk called Kukai, also known as Kobo Daishi. It's kind of a more honorific title. Basically, he's a monk that lived, if I remember correctly, the 800s or the 900s. He went to China and basically came back with a new form, a new school of Buddhism, the Shingon school of Buddhism, which I think might be the second most common in Japan. There's a lot of Japanese people, if they're Buddhist, it's the Shingon school. And Kukai was from Shikoku. He grew up there. But like a lot of people at the time, you moved to Kyoto. You know, it's just like now everybody's moving to Tokyo. It's the city. Yeah. But a lot of the temples, either through legend or through historical documentation, he either visited, he either did some kind of training there or something or other. So pretty much the pilgrimage is synonymous with the name Kukai. Okay. And like I said, there's multiple ways to visit these temples. I'm walking it, but some people, will drive temple to temple. Some people will take a train as close as possible or a bus and maybe just walk a little. Some people do it in sections. Maybe once a year they get a week off and they try to knock off a couple. There's really no set way to do this pilgrimage.
Well, that's an interesting thing. Like within my own family, my wife, who you've met her several times. And my wife was quite excited to hear you were doing this because both her grandmother and I think she said two of her aunts have done this pilgrimage, and they did it in that kind of sectional way where they did it over the series of many years, where her grandmother would head down to Shikoku, maybe with one of the daughters and then another daughter, and they would do parts of it. And I can remember, myself, my first 5 years living in Japan, I worked in a small city called Akashi, which is that's one of the routes to Shikoku. People will leave Akashi and go across the Akashi Kaikyo Bridge and through Awaji Island, Awaji Shima, and to Shikoku.
I know where you're talking about,
Yeah. So my school was located very close to the JR Akashi station. And I would often see, if I had a little break in the morning, I'd run over across the road to go to Starbucks. There would be tour buses, and I'd always see pilgrims gathering with their white little vests on and their hats and their walking sticks. And they were usually elderly, pensioners, retirees.
Because they have the time.
Exactly, they have the time. And they would be kind of gathered around, waiting to get on buses that would then take them across Awaji Shima over to Shikoku. So, but I was always kind of wondering, what is that? What are they doing? Yes. And I heard, 88 temples. Oh, cool. That's neat. And that's about what I knew.
Yeah. And the funny thing about you just talked about the clothes. I always thought, before we go into some of the items, I always thought it was like, this is the traditional wear. If you were back in the 1800s, the Edo period, this is what they would be wearing. But through my research, I think it's a more modern. Okay. So in essence, it might be kind of more like religious cosplay.
No, okay.
You're wearing, from the full uniform it's quite a getup. I chose to only get 2 items. One was what's called the hakui. That's the white vest you mentioned. The reason I made sure to get that, that's kind of like your ID card. You're basically saying to people on Shikoku, I'm on this pilgrimage.
Okay.
It's how they identify you. So they make sure to maybe not run you over when you're walking through many of the countless tunnels that you have to seem to walk through. The only other item I bought in terms of the old cosplay or the uniform, it's called the Kongo Zue. It's the wooden staff that you'll see the pilgrims carrying. It has a lot of symbolism because it's in essence supposed to be Kukai, symbolize Kukai, the monk, going on the pilgrimage with you. And for that reason, because of the symbolism, and I also found out, and I'm going to tell you about a story a little later, not just yet, it ended up being very useful at a particular point, not just for kind of pushing me along maybe a mountain trail, for defensive purposes. I found it was quite useful, but I'll save that for later in the conversation. But besides that, you'll see pilgrims with like white pants, also a white long shirt, and of course the a very famous sedge hat. I forget what it's called in English, that kind of wide brim hat.
I don't know. It's
The reason I didn't buy that, because it is quite useful. The rain, the sun. The problem is it doesn't just fit right on your head. It has like a band.
Like a bamboo band, right? Like a wooden band that fits on top of your head. I think my son,
we tried them on.
Yeah, my son got one of those when we were in Shikoku, going Gifu Prefecture a few years ago. He really, really, really wanted one. I remember like that's what it was. And I remember him complaining after wearing it for about an hour, so that was hurting his forehead.
Really? Okay. So I made the right decision.
Yeah, I think you did. And but wow, did heads turn when a boy who is half Canadian, half Japanese was walking through Osaka Station wearing one of those on our way back. But yeah, well, so
anywhere but Shikoku, if you have any of these items, you're gonna look strange.
Exactly.
Even if you're on your way to Shikoku, most other parts of Japan, it's kind of it's a bit of a surprise.
Did you find that people in Shikoku were probably, and I'm going to assume I already know the answer to this question, were a lot more welcoming once they saw you dressed that way than they probably would have been if you weren't?
Maybe you wouldn't. I don't think I can.
I guess you wouldn't be able to. You'd have to go both ways to be able to figure that out, right? Like you'd have to be able to. Let me walk around Shikoku just dress like regular American Kevin, and then try it this way.
Well, I think there's a two-part answer to that. I think it depends where you would be in Shikoku.
Okay.
Because I find overwhelmingly in the rural areas of Japan, and maybe it's like this in many countries, this kind of generalization, but they tend to be kind and very welcoming. Even for foreigners, particularly if you can speak even just a little bit of the language, and especially if you're clearly there not to cause a problem, but you're generally maybe interested in some cultural aspect or just the nature, like we were talking about before. So I think if you're walking through rural Shikoku, it wouldn't matter. You'd probably be treated quite kindly. But wearing that vest, being on the pilgrimage, there's this concept of osetai. And basically what it is local people will give you things or services because you're on the pilgrimage.
Okay.
Some of them do it because they're devout Buddhists themselves, and they think, in essence, by helping the pilgrim, how should I say this? They gain merit in their karma. They're kind of going on the pilgrimage, in essence, through you by helping you out on your journey. And it can be a variety of things. I was maybe a week into the pilgrimage, and this woman stopped her car and ran over to me, and she must have prepared these little Ziploc bags of like treats, candies, and chocolates, and handed it to me. But somebody could maybe give you a ride if that's what you're looking for. You might be pouring rain out and they see you clearly are not having the most pleasant experience, and they might give somebody a ride somewhere.
Oh, okay.
It comes in, even the places you stay might do your laundry for free, or give you, even though you only paid for the dinner and breakfast service, they might give you a bento box on the way out, which you weren't expecting, and they'll just osetai, it's free.
Oh, wow.
And there's nothing expected. That's the key thing about osetai. There's nothing expected in return. Although you do have these things called osame fuda, and at each temple you're supposed to write your name, your address, and maybe what your wish for, and there's a specific box you put it in at the temple. But traditionally, if somebody gives you osetai, you're supposed to also hand them one of these slips.
Okay.
I'm not really sure why. I haven't done it. I do have the slips, but what I find is each morning, if I know I'm visiting 5 temples, I'll fill out 10 slips, because you're supposed to put one at the box by the main hall, the hondo, and each temple has what's called a daishido, which is for Kobodaishi, Kukai, this monk. He founded the school, so it's kind of a hall to respect him. So there'd be one box at each. But that was the problem. Each day I'd write exactly enough for each temple. And then when the osetai started coming, people would be helping me. Oh God, I don't think it's kind of a formality. At no point have I had somebody help me and kind of put out a hand, where's my slip, buddy? I gave you, no slip, no paper slip. Give me that.
No bento box. You give that back to me.
No bento box for you. But there is a whole ritual that the devout believers engage in when they visit each temple, and I've kind of followed it to an extent. Besides the usual one where you might bow at the gate and wash your hands and your mouth, which you're supposed to kind of do at every temple, there's a set series of sutras or prayers you say at both the hondo, the main hall, and then the daishido, the hall dedicated to Kobodaishi. But the core one is reciting the Heart Sutra, what's known as the Hanya Shingyo, I believe, in Japanese. And it's the Heart Sutra is kind of just an encapsulation of some of the core beliefs of Buddhism. But what's funny about that, in my guidebook, it has it in Japanese, but it's in Romaji, the English transliteration, not hiragana.
Okay.
The kanji are quite obscure, even to many modern Japanese. So I think if it was in hiragana while I'm reading it, I can read hiragana very well. I think it would flow much faster. Sometimes with the Romaji, some of the syllables just look awkward.
Oh yeah. English. Well, I mean, I think even like to any like beginner Japanese student, like when you're learning, like, so for example, I just got a new Japanese textbook because I've started studying again recently. But I remember back in the day, my wife saying like, do not learn any Japanese via Romaji because your pronunciation will be all bad.
Yes.
And it's so true. Once you know the kana, if you at least know the hiragana and they write it all in, and that furigana, like for kids, they put it above the kanji, at least your pronunciation is going to be fine.
Yes. Yeah. Well, the funny thing too about the furigana, a lot of times as time has gone on, younger Japanese people are knowing less and less kanji. So often they might know the word or the concept if they know how to pronounce it, which again, though, it's useful for people like us who don't know many kanji ourselves. I'm not sure. Oh, wait, it says it above. Oh, I know that word. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, what's interesting, if there's other people praying at the same time in front of the main hall or the daishido, I'm kind of very quiet. But if I'm the only one there, I try to really give it a good, loud. And when it's nice to have either maybe a group off a tour bus chanting it in unison, or even maybe a couple of friends, because people that have clearly been doing it for a lifetime, It's almost like a drone.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's just quite, I often try to listen. Where are you taking your breaths? Because it's so fluent and so fast. This, I probably should take out my guidebook, next temple, and right there they take a breath. After this, you know what I mean? Maybe
marks for your breathing spaces and
improve my own delivery.
Kevin, I'm curious, like to kind of jump back. Why did you want to do this?
Well, I needed a break from my wife. Like I said, I was married in November, and she's just been too much. My wife's in the other room.
She's listening right now, isn't she?
Yeah.
There goes a teacup flying at your head. Oh no.
Yeah, I know. Oh, she just packed my bags and telling me to leave for go back to Shikoku today.
You're leaving now. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Guess this interview's over.
I've always loved walking, hiking.
Yeah.
And it's something that I find on just so many levels. I find it satisfying. There's the physical aspect. If you're walking a long distance, especially over mountains, but let alone if it's flat, if you're walking a long distance, it's a pretty good workout. The old endorphins, once you get past a certain number of steps, your brain's kind of buzzing. But another reason I like it, especially a walk like this, which is day to day to day, we carry packs on these hikes and these walks, but there's also that internal baggage. Memories or maybe anxieties or things we haven't had time to think about. And while you're on a long walk, these things, because you've got tons of time and you're kind of especially if you're walking alone, like I have been doing, you're kind of stuck in your head. And it's really relaxing. And it allows you to kind of calm yourself, center yourself, and kind of address maybe things in your subconscious that have been kind of just floating down there and haven't been coming to the surface. But going on these long walks, sometimes it's just natural. A thought, a memory will crop up. Or sometimes, like at one point I was walking along the coast in Shikoku, and I suddenly remembered one of my mother's cousins had a cottage down a beach. And it brought up all these warm memories of visiting there as a child I probably haven't thought of in over a decade. Just things like that. And long distance walking is probably the last 15, 20 years to something I've been very keen on doing. As you mentioned before, I was on your podcast because I tried to through hike the Appalachian Trail. I think I got about 400 miles in heading south, got through the states of Maine and New Hampshire. And then I got a hernia. So I had to call that off. And it was within the next year, I came to Japan, met my wife. I had planned a through hike again, but like I said, the course of my life completely changed. I moved here. Yeah. In the back of my head, that Appalachian Trail has always kind of been there. And I still do want to attempt to through hike it again. But like I said, it's always kind of been in the back of my head. With the situation now with COVID, especially even though being a spouse of a Japanese person, just kind of worried about leaving the country and my ability to return. So since I recently, I wouldn't say I quit a job, I finished the most recent contract at a job, decided not to resign, and the Shikoku 88 Temple Pilgrimage. I don't have to leave the country. It's a shorter walk compared to something like the Appalachian Trail, which could be 4 to 6 months. Shikoku's anywhere from a month if you're being foolish and rushing along to 2 months if you're doing what I consider a smarter way and taking your time and maybe checking out extracurricular things, side adventures along the way. So it's something I just love the whole concept in this modern age. We have our buses, we have our cars, we have our planes and our trains. No, I'm going to walk from point A to point B. Especially over these long distances. And of course, I don't know if it's unique or it's definitely unusual as far as world pilgrimages go. The Shikoku 88 Temple Pilgrimage is basically English term from Latin, circumambulation, a walk around. It's a circular pilgrimage. You're basically walking around the island of Shikoku. A lot of pilgrimage, like the Camino in Spain. It's more linear.
Yeah.
Although I think there's multiple ways, but whereas this one, you're basically you're walking back to where you started.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So it's something I've always enjoyed.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely something I've always dreamed of, doing something similar to that. That long walk always calls to me, as I'm a walker. For me, I haven't had that point in my life where I've had the opportunity, I suppose. Hopefully in the next few years, I'll be able to, when we do end up back in Japan, if I could do like little pieces at a time of something like that, that would be fantastic.
If you're looking for somebody to go with you, I would love to do, and talking about that, the number of times I've been asked by other pilgrims that I encounter, you're walking as well. I'm a walking pilgrim. How many times have you walked it? What? Because a lot of the pilgrims are predominantly older, retired men, again, because they have the time, and they're maybe the ones more interested in doing this. Many of them that I have met, it's their second or their third time.
Oh, wow.
Whether it's for the religious purposes, but I know from talking to at least one or two of them, it was the enjoyability factor as well. You said, you called it an adventure. That's what it was like. Some of them are maybe coming from the big cities, and to be able to walk through, a more rural part of Japan is quite exciting.
Oh yeah, that speaks to me.
Relaxing at the same time.
Yeah,
it's kind of a.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Like when nature calls, and I mean, when you live in this big urban environment like we do here, for example, and because of COVID, I know, like for myself, our personal situation with my family, because of really strict COVID restrictions, there's been a lot of periods of time where we can't even leave the city. They'll literally say, "Don't leave the city." Like the city's just, it's like, so yeah, okay. So can you tell us a little bit about what does a typical day look like for Kevin on Shikoku doing this walk? And I'm sure maybe there's no typical day, but what kind of, so we can kind of envision what it looks like from kind of getting up in the morning and kind of getting ready and getting out the door.
Well, I guess before we do that, we should talk about where you stay.
Sure.
Because that would be the start of the day.
Yeah.
In the past, it was much more common to camp out.
Okay.
To wild camp.
Which is actually a question my son was wondering about that today, because we were talking about this. I've shown my son pictures of your adventure, and he asked me that. He's like, "Dad, is he camping? Does he carry a tent and a sleeping bag and stuff?"
I am not. It's becoming a little less common. When I was doing research for it, I read a lot of things through Facebook groups, through people's personal blogs. A lot of the locals are frowning on that practice because what is happening is people are camping in places where they're bothering the local community, or they're camping on private land without asking. I'm sure part of this, there has been a huge influx before Corona of foreign pilgrims, and it might be foreign pilgrims maybe not knowing that you can't quite camp there. And so for me personally, I didn't want to find myself on multiple occasions in a situation where I'm woken up in the middle of the night. You gotta pack up your stuff and go.
Yeah.
And also, my Japanese isn't quite good enough. I didn't want to be in a situation like that. I don't quite know what you're saying. You seem a little upset. What's going on?
Yeah.
But I've run into a fair number of people that are doing it, and so it's still happening. But for me, it was just, I'm saving weight. I'm not carrying, like your son mentioned, the tent, the sleeping bag. And I also financially have the means where I can stay, because there is like a whole niche, what would you say, businesses that cater to accommodating pilgrims. They're becoming a little less and less because people are leaving these rural areas. But basically what most of them they're guest houses.
Okay.
They're often older retired couples that want to help specifically walking pilgrims and could probably use a little bit extra income. So they have extra rooms in a house or maybe even a second building on their property.
Okay.
And usually it would depend. Some of them can be as cheap as 3,000 yen. So what's that, about $25 US?
Yeah.
You're just getting probably a place to stay. You're able to shower. They might, for a little extra, you might be able to do laundry. And then for anywhere from 5,000, 6,000 yen, again, about $50, you will get breakfast and dinner included in that. And the breakfast and dinner, are a full Japanese meal with tons of, you got your rice, maybe some kind of meat or fish, and tons of side dishes.
Nice.
And what's funny is it's like what's kind of joked about as American sized portions, this massive, because they know you've been walking all day.
Yeah.
So they really want to.
You need calories.
Yeah. And there was one meal it was so much, I couldn't even finish it. I was that full. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to leave some. But I mean, at some points you might be going through a city, if you are somebody like me that's doing accommodations, and you might pay for a cheap hotel. There's also occasional temples that have like a guest house, and again, it might be a little bit more expensive because you're staying at the temple, but it's for an American. The cost of accommodations in general in Japan are amazingly affordable compared to what they would be in a comparative place in the United States.
Yes. And that is absolutely true. That's like such a myth you hear over the years of, Japan's so expensive. And I think,
some things are.
Some things are, absolutely. Some things are.
An island nation. What do you expect?
I mean, transportation is expensive. I mean, trains are expensive. You're taking a Shinkansen, like the bullet train, that's really expensive. But like, for someone who spent 20 years now in Asia, when I tell you, Japan's cheaper than where I am in China at a tier 1 Chinese city like Shanghai or Shenzhen or Beijing, much cheaper to be in Japan. But also going from, say, Japan, when I go on a summer holiday back to Canada and having to stay in hotels. I mean, oh my God, hotels in Canada, like you get off at an airport hotel and you're paying like $200 a night for like a relatively small room. Or, I like to always share the story of my first time bringing my daughter when she was 5 to Canada. And we flew into Ottawa airport there in Canada. And we stayed at this like local airport hotel, which was nothing fancy. And the next morning we get up and we have the breakfast buffet for the family. And they're like, I get the bill and it's like, that'll be $89 plus tip. And I was just like, oh my God, $100 for breakfast. And, it would be much cheaper in Japan, much cheaper.
And the thing is, if that meal was cheaper, the quality, like a lot of these business hotels in America, it's like cereal, yogurt toast that's hard as a brick, and for a cheaper overnight fee, the breakfast you get even a normal business hotel in Japan. I remember the first time I stayed at one many, many years ago. I walked out to the buffet kind of grimacing, like, let's see what they have. They not only had the washoku, the Japanese style breakfast, which I quite like these days, but rice, miso, but they even had the Western buffet, which again would have been higher quality than I'd get. I was like, but I'm paying half the price. How is it possible? Right? There is one more before we move on. There is one more type of accommodation, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, suyado. It's basically free accommodations. Okay. Some temples have them. They might just be a hut or like a structure, small structure. Some people in the rural areas might have a garage. And I haven't stayed at any of them. I think there's like websites, particularly in Japanese, where you can find out about them. There's also henro huts, structures along the official pilgrimage route that, especially in the rural areas, I walked by one maybe about a week ago, and in Japanese and English, they made it very clear don't feel, bad about sleeping here. You can stay overnight. We have a porta potty on our property, and there's an arrow pointing at it. There's running water from a faucet. Feel free. But there was one I noticed one day on the map that said Oyasumi Nashi, basically no sleeping. I'm like, that's the name of the hut. And sure enough, when I showed up in Japanese and English, they made it very clear you should not sleep here. It was kind of like a suburb of Tokushima City. There was an elementary school, a junior high, literally probably within half a kilometer. So it's understandable at a place like that. But there are, there's plenty of people I can tell they're on a smaller budget, and as much as possible, they're trying to stay at these free accommodations. But yeah, I have the kind of budget where I don't mind, and particularly the Minshuku, these guest house. It's a great, the amount of food, the quality of food. Even if there's no other pilgrims staying there, you're still talking to the older couple that run the place, or if there are pilgrims there, it's a good chance to kind of catch up on them, maybe compare notes moving forward. Maybe they have some information I don't have in my guidebook that they have in their guidebook. And in general, it's kind of funny. During the day, I try to avoid talking to pilgrims outside of the temples. If I'm walking, I'm kind of, you're
in your zone.
I'm in my zone, and it's not so much I'm hurrying. I don't want to kind of latch on with another person because I want to do my own thing.
Yeah.
Maybe I walk by a museum. Oh, what's this all about? I want to go in, and I don't want that person. Japanese people can be very hospitable, very friendly. I don't want that person to feel, well, I should kind of help out the foreigner. I don't really want to waste time.
Guess I should go to the museum too.
Yeah. But yeah, getting back to your question, if I'm staying at a guest house, which is the most common, usually breakfast is early because they know you want to get out the door. It can be as early as 6. Usually the latest will be 7. Because they also want you to get out of the place so they can, clean the futons or do whatever they have to do. Probably now with COVID, spray things down. So usually at the latest, I'm out the door by 7:30. I've already looked at the map, seen where I'm going, and I've already booked my accommodations for that night.
Okay.
Usually I have the next 2 days booked.
Okay.
It might be different in a normal year with Corona still being around, COVID still being around. My understanding is the pilgrim numbers are down because there's no foreign tourists right now.
Makes sense, yeah.
So if there's a foreigner there, they're like me, they live in Japan. But I think just in general, there hasn't been many tour buses, which I'm very grateful for.
Yeah.
Not that I have a problem with the tour bus pilgrims. It's when you go in the temple office, right? I forgot to mention, you have a stamp book. You collect the calligraphy and the stamps of each temple. So if you time it wrong and a tour bus has arrived before you, there's a member of that tour company's come in with a huge stack of the tour bus pilgrims stamp books to get the calligraphy. And you might have to wait a little while until they're all done. But yeah, numbers are down, so there's a lot less pilgrims. So I don't think there's as much as a need to kind of book your accommodations beforehand. But I try to do at least 2 days out.
Well, I can't even imagine what it must have been like, say, even just 4 years ago, pre-COVID, because, it was getting to the point where, a lot of Japanese residents and people were really getting to the point where they're complaining about the congestion throughout Japan.
Like Kyoto.
Yeah. And just anecdotally speaking, as someone who lived there between 2008 till 2018, that was me. I can remember being, and I was in Kobe the whole time. I can remember, 2008, 2009, 2010 being in Kobe and you'd see some foreign tourists, often European and stuff, but not many. But visiting, say 2019, and visiting certain spots and just being like, whoa, oh, what's going on here? there's just crowds of people everywhere that weren't there, and they're not speaking Japanese. They're speaking lots of different languages, but it was very noticeable. So I think that I'm sure there were a lot of, if maybe not even pilgrims, just visitors to those temples and buses and things.
Well, definitely pilgrims, because I belong to 2 Facebook groups, and quite a lot of them are foreigners that don't live in Japan. Most of them are European, and like the most common posts lately are, when are they going to let us back in?
Oh, yeah.
I'm dying to,
Yeah.
But yeah, numbers are down. So I don't think it's as big as a deal. But yeah, so I get going, and depending on some days, you might not walk to a temple because of the distance. Particularly, I'm now in Kochi Prefecture. There's quite a long distance sometimes. Mm-hmm. But usually, an average day, you're probably going to visit at least 1, 2, 3 temples. And the other thing is, there's an official route. But for somebody like me, it's not important to take what's the official route. Sometimes the official route in the guidebook might go along a busy, congested street. But I might see on the map, by just walking a kilometer more, I can take this coastal road, which is definitely going to be more beautiful and probably going to have a lot less traffic. So I'll often decide on my route based on how the map looks, and how I guess the situation's going to be on that particular road. But yeah, then you'll visit your temples. At some point, you'll stop for lunch. Either I'll have carried something in my pack. Maybe I got something free from the guest house. Maybe I stopped at a convenience store. And every once in a while, depending on where I am, if I see a restaurant, and I'm like if that's a high mileage day, and I know I'm going to be walking a lot, and maybe you see a ramen shop. Ooh, you know what? I think I'm going to go in and get a ramen set with all the extra stuff that might come with it. Fried chicken, fried rice, and the ramen. It would depend on what type of day it is. And then generally, check in at these guest houses will be after 4. So you try to arrive at your next guest house between 4 and 6, because dinner will probably be at 6:30. So you try to arrive if you can, 4 or 5 o'clock, shower, do laundry if you have to, maybe update your social media, write in your journal, and then eat dinner whenever they're serving it. And usually I'm in bed pretty early because you're tired.
Yeah.
So, but it's funny. Not only the guest house, but even the temples that have lodging will serve alcohol.
Oh, really?
So especially if let's say I did a 30-kilometer day, and the day I have planned tomorrow was only 16. A situation like that. Oh, yes, I'm definitely getting a glass of sake.
Yeah.
With the meal. But if it's like the reverse, I just had a 16-kilometer day. Tomorrow's going to be 30 kilometers. Yeah, maybe we'll wait.
Hold off on that one for a day or 2.
Oh, and I've made the mistake because sometimes if I'm staying at maybe I'm saving money, or maybe the guest house I decided to stay at doesn't offer meals, I'll have to go out for dinner and then maybe get convenience store food for the next morning for breakfast.
Yeah.
And if I happen to be in a place that has a bunch of restaurants, I'll often take that option because it's nice to go out and you're meeting more people. And one night in particular, I was in the city of Aki in Kochi Prefecture. The guest house didn't offer food. It was super cheap. And on the way out of the guest house, I told the woman, I'm going to go out to eat for dinner just to let her know where I was going. And she asked me what my budget was, what I was looking to spend. And I basically told her, if it tastes good, I'm willing to pay a good amount of money. I'm going for quality of food and the atmosphere. And she says, well, I have a place I always recommend to the guests. And it wasn't particularly expensive, but she told me everything on the menu is good.
Okay.
Which is an outrageous claim. But I must say, I went to this izakaya. They specialize in seafood. everything I ordered was exceptional. Like everything I ordered, I got fried mackerel, grilled amberjack, restaurant made shumai. I even had, which I've never seen before, smoked chicken tempura, which was phenomenal. It's little cuts of smoked chicken, fried up.
Yeah.
But anyways, while I was there, one thing I do try to do if I go to these izakaya, I want to try jizake, the local sake.
I've been seeing your pictures. I've been seeing your pictures of that on social media.
Yeah, I'm a beginner to sake, so I want to try new ones. Maybe I'm going to find the one that to me is the best I've ever had.
Yeah.
But while I was there was only one other customer sitting at the counter. This is izakaya. I assumed he was a local because after having 2 beers with his food, he got a large bottle of sake, the common one.
Yeah.
And the waitress said to him, "You can take it out. Don't worry if you don't finish. Mochi kaido, you can take it out." So I assumed if he's taking it out, he must live near here. He overheard me talking to the cook at one point, and he turned to me. He's like, "Hey, are you a Henro? Are you a pilgrim?" "Oh, yeah." Well, he had last year, I think it was, walked the pilgrimage. So I moved down beside him, and we ended up finishing the bottle he had purchased. And then we got some more. Spent about 2 hours together.
Nice.
The next day, I think I had 18 kilometers.
Ooh.
It was flat. It was fine the first few hours. But yeah, at a certain point, you're like, all right, this is not fun anymore. So that was probably the only day where I went against my not rule, but kind of guideline with the drinking. But the thing is, it was a chance encounter. A guy who has done the pilgrimage, to be able to share stories, our experiences. And we just seemed to really hit it off. It was just a really fun time. So now, was it worth it? Absolutely.
Yeah.
At 2 p.m. the afternoon of the following day, was it worth it?
Maybe no.
Coin toss.
Coin toss. Nice. Yeah. Well, that kind of leads me into, that story is a great story. And you've already had so many great experiences, I'm sure. You've walked, how long were you doing it? 3 to 4 weeks, right? 4 weeks, maybe? Is that how long
I think it was in between 3 to 4 weeks I've done so far. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I wanted to do it all in one go, as you know.
Yeah.
But even though Corona is still around, COVID, Golden Week is the worst time to travel because everybody in Japan seems to be traveling.
Oh, yeah.
So I decided to come back to Shimane. I didn't want to deal with because it's been so lovely. There's been so few of us pilgrims, and even people in general at these temples. Probably 85% of the ones I visit, it's so serene and so peaceful because there's few people on the grounds of the temple. So I didn't want to have a week where that's been flipped on its head and now it's like being at a Disneyland with the crowds. It's kind of off-putting, especially after having such lovely conditions.
Yeah.
I'm currently home in Shimane for Golden Week, and tomorrow I'm heading back down.
Yeah. So you're heading back. I know we've been having a great talk, but there's something you alluded to earlier, and I do want to get a few more stories, but you had mentioned something about a walking stick and it being a potentially good defensive weapon, not just a souvenir. Okay, so that was part 1 of my interview with Kevin Tarpey, talking about his incredible experiences. And the one thing I always love sitting down with Kevin, because not only is he someone who is an adventurer, has an adventurous spirit, but he's also such a great storyteller, which makes it always fun to listen to him. So before we move forward, I'll tell you that next week, part 2 of this episode will come out. So if you enjoyed this, please listen to part 2 and you won't be disappointed as he wraps up talking about his first half of his journey. And remember to go and follow Kevin on Instagram at The Green Hoof. The Green Hoof, you will not be disappointed. You will be able to see photos of all of these places he has visited, and you'll be able to read his travel journals. So it's fantastic. Okay, all of you Supernatural Japan awesome people, remember, please share this podcast. Help us grow. Share this with like-minded people. Share this podcast on your social medias. Be sure to find us wherever you're listening and leave a review for us, a great review, of course, and a nice 5-star rating to help us climb up in the charts on whatever platform you're listening to us on. Go over and join the Supernatural Japan podcast Facebook group. Come on over and join, and I will let you in. The community is growing to over 100 people now, which is fantastic. And of course, come over and follow us on Instagram at instagram.com/supernaturaljapan for lots of photos, videos, and different things about the various episodes of the podcast. Again, thank you so much for all of you incredible listeners. Stay tuned till next week, or for next week, for part 2 of the 88 Temples Pilgrimage. Another fantastic interview, another fantastic talk. It is such good stuff. I hope you're enjoying this podcast. I am so thankful that you are all here joining me on my podcasting journey as a Supernatural Japan podcast guy. All right, folks, wherever you are, I hope you're happy, I hope you're healthy, and we'll be back at you next week with part 2. Take care, and I'll see you then.
This episode is brought to you by Accenture. When your advertising operations fall out of sync, everything else follows. Spotify and Accenture are working together to reinvent the rhythm of ad sales, using automation, analytics, and smarter workflows to simplify campaign delivery and access better data across the business. The result? Less time spent on operations, more time connecting brands with the moments and fandoms that matter most. Learn more at accenture.com/Spotify.
This summer, soccer is here, and so are the watch parties. And Uber Eats has your game day essentials covered. Everything you need to keep your crowd happy, delivered straight to your door. Get wings, pizza, chips, dips, fresh ingredients, and more. Keep the soccer going and all your game day essentials flowing. Order in so you can lock in for the games. Only on Uber Eats for a limited time.
Tomorrow morning is knocking. Stock your fridge now. How about a creamy mocha frappuccino drink? Or a sweet vanilla? Smooth caramel maybe? Or a white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Find Starbucks Frappuccino drinks wherever you buy your groceries.
This episode is brought to you by Perfect Bistro Cat Food. Hey guys, today I'm interviewing my cat about his Perfect Bistro food. Percy, you seem to be a big Perfect Bistro fan. Care to comment? Totally. What do you like about it? You love the high-quality ingredients? And the delicious flavors, of course. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Listen to Percy, guys. Visit perfectbistro.com to try it for your cat.
Yeah. So I wanted to do it all in one go, as you know.
Yeah.
But even though Corona is still around, COVID, Golden Week. Golden Week is the worst time to travel because everybody in Japan seems to be traveling.
Oh, yeah.
So I decided to come back to Shimane. I didn't want to deal with because it's been so lovely. There's been so few of us pilgrims, and even people in general at these temples. Probably 85% of the ones I visit, it's so serene and so peaceful because there's few people on the grounds of the temple. So I didn't want to have a week where that's been flipped on its head, and now it's like being at a Disneyland with the crowds. You know, it's kind of off-putting, especially after having such lovely conditions.
Yeah.
I'm currently home in Shimane for Golden Week, and tomorrow I'm heading back down.
Yeah. So you're heading back. You know, I know we've been having a great talk, but I mean, there's something you alluded to earlier, and I do want to get a few more stories. But you had mentioned something about a walking stick and it being a potentially good defensive weapon, not just a souvenir. Let us know.
In Japanese, it's called the Kongo Zue. I've started calling it my kukai stick because that's who it's supposed to represent. Affectionately, I call it my kukai stick. So one day I was walking along the coast of Kochi. Again, I don't know if this is even considered the official route. I think it was one of those days where it's like, that coastal road, it's got promise. I envision sea vistas, cliffs descending down to the ocean, waves crashing into those cliffs. I think I'm going to take this. So at one point, sure enough, I was right. It was lovely, beautiful views. There was even observation pull-ups for the few cars that drive on this road. And I stopped at one of them for lunch. And along some of these like locations, I noticed there's a lot of feral cats. Okay. Particularly in Kochi Prefecture. So I think I had gone to a bakery the day before. So I had like one of those bacon cheese baked sandwich thingies. And I'm eating that, and I'm keeping an eye on the cats kind of scrounging around, making sure they're not going to make a run for the other food I've got on the rock I'm sitting at. And I'm eating this thing. All of a sudden, I feel a swoosh of air and hear like a whoosh. And I kind of jerk away, and sure enough, it's a toby, a black kite. One of those large birds. Yeah. Swooped down to try to swipe my bacon and cheese baked good thingy. So it goes back up, and it's now circling probably 5-8 meters above my head.
That's a big bird.
And I take my stick, I start shouting, swinging it. It swooped down 1 or 2 more times, and I kind of swung, and eventually it flew away. The Kukai stick, I'm thinking it saved me. That's it. And then maybe about 2-3 minutes later, I hear that distinctive kind of like a horse whinnying, the black kite cry. Yeah. I heard it, and I was like, oh no, it's back. And I look up. Oh, not only is it back, it's brought 2 or 3 friends with him. So I just kind of wolfed down the rest of that sandwich. I was like, you guys win. I'm out of here. I'm taking off. Black kites.
On a side note, the black kite was my spark bird that got me into birding, by the way. That was the bird.
I love them.
That was a bird that got me when I first moved to Japan. I grew up with 2 birds.
I did love them.
Yeah, until they tried to steal your bacon sandwich.
Well, I love them around here, but they're so, I don't want to say skittish, but they don't allow me to get too close to them.
Yeah, skittish is probably
here. So
they're safe.
Funny.
Yeah, I think it depends on like I can remember years ago, because again I mentioned earlier in the podcast that I'd worked in Akashi, and right along, I mean that's right on the water, right on the inland sea. And then across, you've got Awaji Island. And I can remember seeing news stories, literally like evening news when I'd be at home, where like those black kites, the Toby, were like viciously attacking picnickers and people at the rest stops, the highway rest stops right by the water. And there's all these video clips showing like the Toby's flying down and like literally grabbing bento boxes and onigiri out of people's hands and flying off. You know, so they're opportunists, and they say that's one of the that's one of the reasons why they're such successful birds, because they're not picky. They'll eat an onigiri, they'll eat a fish.
Sure. And I'm wondering too if, like, say the ones I'm seeing around here, the prey are so plentiful, they would have no need to.
And that's probably why. Because I can remember actually. Here we go, guys. It's bird time, everyone. Supernatural bird time. But I can remember years ago being with my wife along the waterfront in Kobe, by Kobe Gakuen University, walking along this boardwalk, and we stopped and stood, and we were watching one of these black kites. And by the way, folks, this is a large raptor. It's a very big brown raptor. A lot of people mistake them as eagles. And we
wingspan.
It's a huge wingspan. And we watched this Toby fly down to the water, and it reached out its talons, grabbed a fish, flew up in the sky about 20 meters, and just dropped the fish into the water. And then it flew back down and grabbed another fish. And it was literally just playing. And it was like, okay, if
practicing.
If you can do this, if you can afford to practice with your time, it's pretty easy to fill that belly. So maybe that's what's going on with the black kites in your neighborhood.
Yeah, and again, like I was saying, this particular location, dramatic cliffs, steep cliffs dropping down to the ocean. The waves are it was quite turbulent. So I don't know if that limited thick forest. The rest of, it's not easy hunting in a thick forest. Whereas where I live, it's tons of the tambo, the rice fields.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Lots of frogs and things to catch.
Exactly. And much better visibility.
Whereas where you were in Kochi, they have to rely on bacon sandwiches.
Yeah, exactly. I should have probably left an offering. That's probably what Kukai would have done.
Yeah.
Leave it on the rock and get walking.
I was wondering, have you had any other interesting encounters, tales, things you've...
Well, the Osetai has been quite interesting.
What is Osetai?
One in particular, again, Osetai is the gift giving kind of.
Okay.
And one in particular, there's a stretch in Kochi where I think it's the second longest stretch in between temples. You're walking down to Muroto Cape. And that particular stretch is kind of notorious or infamous in the Henro community because there's very little infrastructure till you get to the tip of that cape where the next temple is.
Okay.
Even in Japan, a land renowned for vending machines. At one point, I walked by
convenience stores.
Yeah, in convenience stores. There's no convenience stores along this 30-kilometer, maybe one, But
oh my God, this is Inaka.
One vending machine, somebody had put up a sign, just so you know, the next one is not for 10 kilometers.
Oh my God, it's kind of like in America going through the desert and seeing one of those gas stations that's like your last chance for gas.
Exactly. And I did have I think I had a coffee about 2 hours before. I was like, well, I might as well have another one. I don't know. What if I never make it to the next vending machine? This might be my last chance. So there's very little infrastructure, but at the same time, you're on this coastal road. Again, to your right are like these forested hills or cliffs, and to your left is just ocean, the Pacific Ocean. And the waves there, maybe because some kind of current or the local tide. Oh, I felt like a kid just washing. I'd be waiting for certain waves, like, oh, this one's going to be good. This one's going to really crash into the rocks, and just watching the surf explode. But anyways, I'm walking along. I'm probably about 30 minutes to an hour into that desolate stretch. And I decided, rather than typically I'll walk on the side where the traffic is coming towards me, because at least you can see the cars coming. I walked on the other side so I could be right by the ocean. I wanted to be close to the ocean as possible. And at one point I hear the very loud squeak of a truck braking behind me. So I thought maybe it was a guy telling me, you're on the wrong side of the road. It's dangerous. You should get on the other side. But no. The truck driver got out of the truck. He said, oh, Henro-san, Mr. Pilgrim, this is for you. And he had a plastic bag, and inside were 2 rice balls, a bottle of water, 2 chocolate nut snacks, and maybe 20 of those small hard candies. It was Osetai. And
wow.
He gets back. But the crazy thing is, he gets back in the truck and immediately pulls into a pull-off and turns around and goes back in the direction he came. So what that means is, I realized, he must have driven past me maybe 30 minutes, 40 minutes earlier, saw me, knew how tough of a stretch this was, because maybe that was his regular delivery route for whatever truck company he worked for.
Yeah.
He then continued to drive, and I knew from a fact, from that point, it was probably 15 kilometers at least to the last convenience store where he could have bought that stuff, to the last supermarket. So he drove that 15 kilometers, purchased the stuff, then drove back to where I was walking to deliver it. So he took that much time out of his work day.
Wow.
Not free time. He was clearly working. It was the middle of the day to give me that stuff. And those kind of, the Osetai, the gift giving, it changes you. It makes you want to be kind. It makes you want to do that for me. And little did he know, it ended up being probably the most fun day I've had on the pilgrimage. It was just so unbelievably raw and beautiful, that coast of Muroto Cape. But at that point, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I still kind of myself, I was like, oh, this is going to be a tough stretch of walking. And that particular day as well, I can take the story further. I stayed at a guest house that was run by a Japanese woman and her Spanish husband.
Okay.
The Spanish husband cooked Spanish cuisine for the guest house. So after walking, I think it was over 30 kilometers that day, I was tired. My feet were throbbing. I had to pay extra for it, but I got served a full paella course set.
Nice.
You're in a part of Japan where there's 10 kilometers between vending machines. And in this part of Japan, I'm having it was phenomenal food. And they just opened the guest house, if I remember correctly, in January. And I think I was the first foreign guest. So the guy was so excited. Not only was I a foreigner, but a somewhat similar situation to him, a foreigner married to a Japanese wife, living in a very rural, of course, he was living in a much more rural, desolate part. So he gave me, she told me when she served the food, he's giving you extra food, just so you know, because he's just so happy to, run into, or I guess I ran into him. I was the one doing the walking. But it was just an absolutely amazing day. I mean, there's just been so many cool things. The wildlife you see, whether it's the birds or tanuki, you'll see inoshishi, the wild boar, every once in a while. But just so many moments. For example, one thing I've noticed with some of us walking pilgrim and just people in general, they seem to kind of create a hierarchy. The walking pilgrim is kind of at the top because they're doing, theirs is much more arduous. There's much more aesthetic training. They kind of, and I think that's malarkey. And I can tell you a story why I think that's a bunch of BS. If you start from Temple 1, which is kind of the traditional way, which is what I did, you can start from anywhere. But if you start from Temple 1, one kind of notorious day is from Temple 11 to I think it's Temple 12. It's one of those days where you're actually hiking. You're on a hiking trail.
Oh, okay.
And it's a roller coaster of a day. You go up to a ridge, you descend back down. You go up to another ridge, you descend back down. You go up once more up a mountain where that temple actually is. And then you have to continue on to your lodging for the day. So you end up doing about 1,000 meters of elevation gain. And who knows how much, when you're descending down. So it's a pretty tough day. It's like a day on the Appalachian Trail.
I was going to say, it sounds like the Appalachian Trail. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you get to this temple, Shosan-ji, and the approach is these pretty new, a series of concrete, it looked like. I don't know what they were made of. Stone sculptures, Buddhist sculptures, gorgeous sculptures. And then you get to the temple itself, old buildings, I don't know how old, huge cedar trees, I'm talking massive, probably hundreds of years old, beautiful temple grounds. And I ended up spending an hour there before going to my accommodation. Such a beautiful spot. But when I was leaving, there was a husband and wife. And this woman, I'm guessing she might have been terminally ill or clearly had some kind of health ailment, because even just the short steps from the approach pathway to the next level of the temple grounds, she was wheezing, and it was such a struggle for her just to get up those steps. And I'm assuming I know for a fact they walked from the parking lot because I saw them drive past me when I was walking my lodging later. So anyways, she's struggling so much. Now, I just did, I don't know how many kilometers. I think it was a 30-kilometer day, 1,000 meters elevation gain. But this woman was struggling so much more. It was so much harder for what she was doing compared to what I just did comparatively.
Yeah.
How dare I, as the walking pilgrim, think that I'm doing the harder? I'm just more deserving of the merit of the good karma than this woman who clearly it's so much tougher, the little bit of the walk from the car. It was really a moment that kind of put things in perspective
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, it's a Buddhist pilgrimage. I don't understand these people who
have a hierarchy.
Get arrogant.
Yeah.
You know, it's Buddhist. Humility is kind of, I mean, so many religions, that's kind of a core concept. But yeah, I just don't get it. But yeah, there's just been so many cool experiences. And the thing is, as I was saying, I'm on a break. Yeah. I'm not even half done.
Yeah.
I'm probably a third done. I think about a week or two, maybe a week and a half after I restart, I'll officially reach the geographical or the mile or the kilometer halfway point.
Okay. So, I mean, you know, this has been a great conversation so far, and we're going to have another one when you're done everything. But I know you've got to go tomorrow. So I'm just to kind of wrap things up. I'm just curious. So you're back on the trail tomorrow, or you're heading off to the trail tomorrow. So moving forward, how much longer are you anticipating it's going to take you to complete the whole 88 temples? I'm
guessing I'll probably finish in early to mid-June.
Okay.
Again, I'm the type of person, the way I'm approaching the pilgrimage, if there's something interesting, but it's a little bit out of the way, I'm willing to spend some hours going there. Or if it's a museum and it's that kind of museum, I'm willing to spend an hour or two to do it. So that's why I'm kind of taking it at a slower pace. And the other thing about it too is traditionally when you get to Temple 88, you're not finished.
Okay.
There's this concept of closing the circle. So what many pilgrims do and what I intend to do is you continue walking back to Temple 1. I think it only adds another day of walking, or maybe 2. But you return to the place you started. But wait, there's more. There's also another tradition of after you've successfully finished the pilgrimage, you go to Koyasan, which is
Wakayama. It's Wakayama.
Yes. Yeah. It's a huge temple complex founded by
same dude.
Yes. And his mausoleum is there.
I've never been there. I've never been to
And I haven't either.
Yeah.
So my hope is if I successfully complete the pilgrimage to go with my wife. So from the pilgrimage, because there is a ferry, because Temple 1 is in Tokushima City, basically. There's a ferry from Tokushima City to to Wakayama, and then I think it's just a short train ride away. So you easily can get there in a day rather than taking a train maybe up to a major city, and then so that's my hope. If I successfully completed to do that, because it would just be really great to have my wife come down.
Yeah.
We'll maybe spend a night in Tokushima, kind of let's go out, have a nice dinner, and then maybe a night or two in Mount Koyasan.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's so many things I'm looking forward to just in the week ahead. It's the longest stretch to the most remote temple, another cape in Kochi Prefecture. But what's interesting about this location, a man I just have such a fascination with in Japanese history, John Manjiro. He goes by many names, but I don't want to talk too long. But basically, this guy was a poor fisherman during the 1800s that lived in a fishing village down there. Him and some of his buddies went out to sea to fish. They got in a storm, and they had to take refuge on an uninhabited island.
Okay.
And they were on this island, I don't know, a couple days when an American whaling ship went by and rescued them. The whaling ship, they then went on to Hawaii. John Manjiro ended up going all the way back to where the whaling ship was from, my home state of Massachusetts.
Oh, wow.
Learned English, became fluent in English, and ended up, even though the country was still closed, he was somehow able to re-enter Japan because they realized his English skills would probably be useful. And I think it was, maybe 5 or 6 years later that Commodore Perry showed up with his heavily armed ships. And he played a very important role as being kind of the only true English speaker during
wow.
the Meiji Resurrection. Yeah. It's like a
I don't know that story. That's fantastic.
Oh, yeah. He's got a Wikipedia page. But anyways, his hometown's there. You can visit his birthplace, but of course there's a museum.
Yeah.
So again, I for that day, I'm setting aside, I don't know how big the museum is, but I'm definitely setting aside an hour or two just in case.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of little things like that along the way.
Well, that's
a good thing about this pilgrimage. It could be religious. You could just visit the temples for the cool architecture and the statues, and maybe do the cultural, the historical things. There's so many aspects to this pilgrimage.
Well, and that's the thing, what's really wonderful about the fact that with your current situation is you have the flexibility and the time to be able to suck up those small moments and to be able to deviate from the path and go down to that cape and have birds try to steal your sandwiches, or go to that museum and to just not have to worry. Like, so many of us have these time constraints and we're like, oh geez, I've only got like this time and I got to be back on the job or I got to be back here. So, I mean, I know it's for me personally, wanting to walk in different places in Japan, I simply want to just walk. Like, I just want to see Japan.
Walk for the sake of walking.
I want to see Japan by foot. I just want to walk.
Yeah.
And
it's a great country to walk in. It's safe. There's a great infrastructure. I mean, you're usually in almost every part of Japan. I don't know about Hokkaido, but it feels like you're always half a day or at most a full day's walk away from a train station or some kind of rural bus stop that could take you back to civilization, if you will, for if you need medical attention or there's some kind of emergency. So it really is a great country to walk in.
Cool, yeah.
So for me, one thing I do want to talk about, if I walked with a strict time schedule, if I walked, for me, it would defeat the purpose of doing the walk. That's why I made sure to wait to do this when I had enough time, because it would allow my anxiety, those time constraints, and I've got to do this, and my whole point of doing this walk, one of the key things is to lose maybe the anxiety I built up over the years, and kind of frustrations, and having that time. Oh God, I got to walk so many miles today because I got to get to that point. And if I don't get to that point, it means tomorrow I got to walk even more, because then I don't want that kind of mindset. I want that freedom of not having to do that. So.
Yeah. No, those time constraints and deadlines we have in the modern world really cause a lot of stress for us and anxiety. Yeah, I mean, that's where I'm living right now. As a school teacher who's coming up in the end of the school year, everything's like report cards and this and that, and oh my God, and then the school year ends, and you're like, oh. So Kevin, I want to plug your social media, just because you do such a great job of sharing these experiences.
Thank you.
Probably the most accessible for people would be your Instagram. Because it's not all about the whole friending process and allowing, when like social media, when they go to your Instagram, they can just follow you. Mine's
100% public. It's not a private account.
So what is your Instagram? And I do have it right here.
It is The Green Hoof. The like the article in English, green like the color, hoof, HOOF. The Green Hoof.
Nice. And
and you'll know it's me because you should see a guy with a goofy red beard standing on the Appalachian Trail sign on the top of Mount Katahdin. That's how you know it's me, Kevin Tarpey.
Nice. And I think what I'm going to do, this is probably going to be a two-parter for this podcast. So I'm going to make sure I plug your social media, like both episodes, so that first episode and the second episode, because I want people to follow along. But just so you folks know, again, you go to the Green Hoof. I mean, Kevin will post usually a series of just fantastic photos of different temples and nature and amazing stuff. And you do always write these great posts about what you've seen and where you've been, and often there's like blurbs about the history and things like this. So it's very much like a journal experience with photos. So that's what I like.
I have to do multiple posts on Instagram because I type too much, and there's a limit, a character limit. So that's why And what I did, I think when I realized that initially, I kind of toned down what I had planned to write. And then I just realized, you know what? Let's just do 2 for this day.
But I'm looking at like one post from just a few days before you finished your trip, and I see a beautiful nature trail. I see what looks like a pitcher plant. I see a land crab. I see beautiful vistas. I see you with a giant ice cream cone, and then I see temples. So there's quite a wonderful variety of things and experiences shared. So for those that are listening, go follow Kevin's Instagram and you can basically join along on this journey. And I know that we're looking at it at my house. I'm showing pictures when we sit down at the table, and I'm like showing like my wife and the kids different pictures, and we're talking about it, and it's making me want to go more. And it was something that was kind of, it's kind of itched the back of my mind before, again, from seeing those people on I should say Akashi, heading towards Awaji Island off on their pilgrimages and wondering, what are these people doing? So, you know.
Well, that's why I try to try to have a narrative, because I know besides somebody like yourself who might be interested in doing it, I've got friends and family that will never, ever, I mean, whether they physically could not do it or for whatever reasons, financial reasons. So even though I will be honest, there's some days it almost feels like a little bit of a burden when I am typing it up and like, what am I doing? This is now the 7th paragraph of this. But when I do get feedback, when people make the comments, that's why it's worth it. Because I know even if it's that one person that just for the brief time they're reading it, they feel like they're there that day, then it's worth it. It's not really a burden.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely. It's very cool. Well, Kevin, thank you for taking the time to sit down with us at the podcast again. When I say again, it's because, you know, years ago you were on the Just Japan podcast, and it was very cool. And you're walking again, and you know, I can't wait to have you back on to talk about things once you completed the whole 88 and a trip to Koyasan.
Yes, yeah. And what's funny, before we finish, like I said, I'm hoping my wife can join me. I think she went when she was really young, but it might have been that age where you're not really. So in essence, it'll be kind of like her going for the first time. Yeah. You know, so that it's always good when you go somewhere for the first time.
Oh, absolutely. Excitement. I mean, how many places did, like my father, who is a historian, you know, how many places growing up as a kid did he took me to so many amazing historical places in Canada. And I know that he probably explained the significance and the importance to me when I was a young child. And I was like, yeah, okay, Dad. I'm bored. And then, you know, now as an adult who has his own son is a budding young little historian who wants to follow in grandpa's footsteps. I'm sure I would love to revisit so many of those places through the lens of an adult who has an appreciation for the bigger picture in life.
No, I know. And that's why I can't imagine if I was doing this pilgrim. I'm 43 now. I couldn't imagine doing it maybe if I was 22. I probably would have had many of the same interests, but I don't think my focus would probably be a lot different.
Well, Kevin, all I will say, and I will never go into any details about this, but I knew you 20 years ago. You knew me 20 years ago, and we had a different perspective on life.
Yes, definitely. That's probably the G-rated version.
We probably would have gone and walked maybe a lot of that, but it would have been a different experience.
There would have been much more nights like the one I described. There would have been many more hard days walking, being thirstier than we should have been. Or what time does the train leave?
Exactly right. Oh well. Yeah. All right, Kevin. Well, good luck on the walk, the rest of your walk,
and thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, thank you for coming on the podcast. I know the listeners are really going to appreciate this as well. So good luck, and we'll catch up with you when you finish.
Yeah. Yep. Sometime in June.
Well, a big thank you to Kevin Tarpey for stopping by the Supernatural Japan podcast for 2 episodes to talk to us about his adventures, his incredible experiences. You, of course, heard in great detail how you can follow Kevin on his adventures on Instagram. He's worth a follow. You definitely want to go over there and see what's going on with his journey. And why do you want to go over there? Because he's back at it again. Literally just a couple of days before I uploaded episode number 7, part 1 of this conversation, he was back on the road walking in Shikoku, finishing up his, starting off the second part of the second leg of his pilgrimage. So he's out there right now, feet on the road, feet on the pavement, having more adventures, and he's sharing those all on Instagram at The Green Hoof. So go and follow Kevin over at The Green Hoof on Instagram. And yeah, that really does it for this week's episode of the podcast. I'm going to be entering my last week of work. I am an educator. My school year ends on the 27th of May, and I will have a relatively long summer holiday. And unfortunately, due to travel restrictions where I am, we are going to be staying put. We would love to be in Japan with family this holiday, but it's just not in the cards. So that's what's happening with us. So there will be regular episodes coming out through the summer of the Supernatural Japan podcast. Again, follow us on Instagram at Supernatural Japan. Come and join the Supernatural Japan Facebook group over at facebook.com/Supernatural Japan. That's where we are. That's where we be living. You can also find me on Twitter, where I tweet a lot of stuff about this podcast, but a lot more about just life in general and education and nature, insects, bugs, spooky things, you name it, over at Mad for Maple on Twitter. All right, well, you know what? Wherever you listen to this podcast, please leave us a fantastic review. It really helps. Please leave us a rating, a great rating, and help us get noticed on Apple Podcasts. Japan is now finally opening up and letting more tourists in. I heard that as of June 1st, 20,000 tourists a day will be allowed to visit. For those of you who can't get there when you would like, you're really excited to get there. Here are some great Japan content for you. If you have friends who plan on going to Japan, share this podcast with them and get more Japan loving, history loving ears on this podcast. All right, guys. Well, that does it for another episode of the podcast. We'll be back really soon with episode number 9. So wherever you are in the world, I hope you're happy, hope you're healthy, and I hope you're being spooky. All right. Bye-bye. Well, thank you so much, folks. A big thanks to Kevin Tarpey again. As I mentioned at the very beginning of this episode, after this interview, he later on went to complete the 88 Temples pilgrimage, and since then has gone on some other incredible long-distance walking adventures, journeys in Japan. And he's also been featured on the Japan Station podcast by a friend of the show, Tony Vega. He himself is another epic walker. Tony has walked substantial parts of Japan, and he is legally blind, and he's done a lot of incredible solo walks across Japan. So again, Kevin was on an episode of that. Thank you guys so much for listening. Again, I'm on my summer adventures in Japan right now, and a lot of great content. If you're following on social media, especially on the at Supernatural Japan Instagram, if you're following me on X or Blue Sky, you'll see there's just a lot of stuff we're doing, having a great time, visiting a lot of supernatural sites. Myself, friend of the show, Phil Jackson, my kids, just really exploring the Kansai region of Japan through a very different lens. This time hiking in the mountains with bear spray on the side of my backpack and bear bells, because, bears this time around in Japan. So that's it, folks. Remember, again, please leave a rating and a review wherever you listen to us. It really does help a lot. If you listen on Spotify, please leave a comment and a rating. Would love to get some more ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts as well. check out supernaturaljapan.com. And again, I'm still collecting stories from you fine folks for the Supernatural Japan book I'm writing. So if you've ever had a supernatural encounter in Japan or something really weird, or you know of someone who has experienced something, please reach out to me. There is on supernaturaljapan.com, there is a place where you can reach out to me at the bottom of the page. You can email me at supernaturaljapan@gmail.com or DM me anywhere on social media, and I would be happy to interview you, talk to you through email, through Zoom, however you would like to do it. And it can be completely anonymous if you want to. A lot of the people I have interviewed already, their names won't be in the book. There will be pseudonyms. The locations will be changed. All of that stuff. So I absolutely do not mind doing that. I want the stories. I want the firsthand stories is what I'm looking for. Not just stuff that's regurgitated on the internet, from top 10 lists. I don't want to write about that kind of stuff. I want something. I want your perspectives. Well, that's it, folks. I hope you're having an awesome summer wherever you are. I know I am, and I will be talking to you all very soon. So take care, be safe, and stay spooky.
Your team just added its 67th AI tool, and also your 67th security blind spot. The good news? The Vanta agent works like a GRC engineer in the background, finding every app your team uses, scoring the risk, and drafting fixes for you. Vanta is the platform used by over 16,000 fast-moving companies like Ramp, Cursor, and Harvey, who are shaping the future with AI and staying ahead of AI risk. Get started at Vanta.com.